3 minutes. That's how long the E-3 Sentry remained visible on Iranian radar before it vanished from every tracking system at once. One moment, the aircraft was performing routine surveillance over the Persian Gulf, its enormous radar dome rotating above the fuselage, scanning hundreds of miles in all directions, building a live map of everything moving across air and sea. The next moment, nothing. No distress signal, no emergency beacon, no final transmission, just silence. And then hours later, debris began washing onto the Iranian coastline. Twisted fragments of fuselage, sections of the radar rotodome, and pieces of highly sensitive avionics that once gave U.S. forces the ability to see the entire battlefield in real time. In a single strike, a $270 million airborne command center was gone, and with it a critical layer of awareness over one of the most strategically sensitive regions on Earth. Iran didn't just destroy an aircraft, it removed a set of eyes that the entire operational structure depended on. To understand why this matters so much, you have to understand what an AWACS actually is and what it does. AWACS stands for Airborne Warning and Control System. The E-3 Sentry is not designed to fight. It is designed to see, to coordinate, and to control. Operating at around 30,000 feet, far above most tactical aircraft, it can monitor a radius of roughly 250 kilometers in every direction. That means it can track hundreds of airborne and surface targets simultaneously. Aircraft, cruise missiles, drones, naval vessels, everything that moves within its coverage zone. Built on a modified Boeing 707 airframe, the aircraft carries a massive rotating radar dome mounted on top, approximately 30 feet wide, housing powerful surveillance systems capable of detecting and tracking more than 600 targets at once. Inside the aircraft, a crew of around 17 highly trained personnel manages the mission. Radar operators monitor incoming data. Weapons controllers direct intercept missions. And communication specialists coordinate with forces across multiple domains. The aircraft becomes a central node linking fighters, ships, and ground units into a single integrated system. It doesn't just observe the battlefield, it organizes it. Without that coordination, operations become fragmented. Decisions slow down, response times increase, risks multiply. The aircraft itself is built for endurance. It can remain airborne for 8 hours without refueling, and extend that to over 11 hours with aerial support. While the base cost is estimated at $270 million, the true value is far higher when you include classified systems, continuous upgrades, crew training, and maintenance infrastructure. Each AWACS represents not just a financial investment, but years of operational capability that cannot be quickly replaced. The United States operates only a limited number of these aircraft. Losing even one is not a minor setback. It is a reduction in a scarce and critical resource, and the impact is not isolated. It cascades across the entire operational environment over the Persian Gulf. That aircraft was providing continuous surveillance, tracking aircraft movements deep inside Iranian territory, identifying potential missile launches, monitoring drone activity over the Strait of Hormuz, and feeding real-time data to commanders who depend on early warning to make decisions. Without that coverage, everything changes. Fighter jets must rely more heavily on their own onboard radar, which is far more limited in range and scope. Naval vessels lose valuable minutes of warning before incoming threats appear. Ground operations lose the integrated air picture that helps prevent miscalculations and friendly fire incidents. In modern warfare, information is often more important than firepower, and AWACS is one of the systems that provides that information. The loss of a single aircraft doesn't just remove one asset, it weakens the entire network built around it. And that leads to the next critical question. How did this happen? Because the answer reveals a deeper shift in the balance of power. The E-3 Sentry typically operates in what is considered a safe zone, flying in predictable patterns in international airspace, maintaining a buffer of around 150 miles from potential threats. That distance has traditionally been enough to keep it out of range of most surface-to-air missile systems, but that assumption is now being challenged. Over the past 2 decades, long-range air defense systems have evolved significantly. Capabilities have improved, ranges have extended, and tracking systems have become more precise. In this case, the aircraft was likely being monitored for hours, possibly days. Modern radar systems are capable of building what analysts call a pattern of life, a predictable understanding of where and when an aircraft will be at any given moment. Once that pattern is established, timing becomes everything. The engagement likely occurred when the aircraft reached the closest point at its patrol route. A missile launched at that moment would have the highest probability of success. The missile system itself operates in stages. Initial boost to high altitude and speed, followed by a terminal guidance phase, where it actively tracks its target. At a distance of around 160 miles, the entire engagement window is measured in minutes. The crew of the AWACS would likely have received a warning only seconds before impact. Far too little time to react effectively. These aircraft are not built for evasive maneuvers. They are large, slow, and equipped with only basic defensive countermeasures. When the missile struck, the outcome was immediate. The aircraft broke apart at altitude. Debris scattered across a wide area, and within hours, recovery operations began, raising concerns about sensitive technology falling into the hands of adversaries. But the event itself is only the beginning. The real impact unfolds in layers. The first layer is operational. With one aircraft gone, remaining AWACS platforms must be repositioned further away from potential threat zones. This increases their safety, but reduces their effectiveness. Radar coverage weakens at longer distances. Detection becomes less precise. Tracking becomes intermittent. Gaps begin to appear in the surveillance network. Those gaps matter. They mean missiles can be launched with less warning. Drones can approach closer before detection. Aircraft can maneuver with greater freedom. Even small delays measured in minutes can have major consequences in a high-speed combat environment. The second layer is economic. The imbalance between cost and effect is striking. One side loses an asset worth hundreds of millions of dollars, requiring years to replace. The other side uses a system that is significantly cheaper and faster to produce. This creates a long-term pressure dynamic. Over time, sustaining operations becomes more expensive and more difficult. The third layer is psychological. For decades, operating in international airspace provided a level of assumed safety for high V-value platforms. That assumption has now been shaken. Crews become more cautious. Missions become more restricted, operational confidence declines, and at the same time the symbolic impact is powerful. Demonstrating that advanced systems can be targeted changes perception not just in one region, but globally. Then comes the strategic layer. The United States has long relied on information dominance, the ability to see everything and respond faster than any opponent. When that advantage is reduced, the entire operational model is affected. Opponents do not need to match strength directly. They only need to disrupt key systems enough to introduce uncertainty. And uncertainty is a powerful equalizer. The official response to such an event often focuses on immediate explanations, but the deeper story lies in what changes afterward. If aircraft are pulled back, if patrol routes shift, if coverage is reduced, those are indicators that the threat environment has changed. Looking ahead, the long-term challenge becomes clear. Maintaining continuous surveillance requires multiple aircraft operating in rotation, one on station, one in transit, one preparing, one in maintenance. With fewer aircraft and increased risk, maintaining that cycle becomes more difficult. Replacement timelines stretch into years. Threat production cycles are measured in months. That imbalance shapes future strategy. This is no longer about a single loss. It is about whether a system designed for dominance can continue to function under sustained pressure. Because if losses occur faster than replacements, capability begins to erode. And once that erosion reaches a critical point, strategic decisions begin to shift. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but gradually through accumulated pressure. One aircraft, 17 crew members, and a shift in how risk is calculated in one of the most important regions in the world. The loss is not just physical, it is structural. It challenges assumptions that have defined operations for decades. Because what disappeared in those 3 minutes was more than an aircraft. It was a layer of certainty that those systems would always operate beyond reach. And once that certainty is gone, every mission, every decision, and every calculation becomes more complex. And that is where the real impact begins.